When I did my first batch of Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked randomly to talk about for this video series, one of them that I picked was Suspiria. And I was like, well, everybody out there knows why I have Suspiria on my shelf. It's a classic horror film, probably the peak of Dario Argento's work. It is iconic. Most people who know even the slightest amount about this kind of genre, or the horror film in general, know what Suspiria is. But I also thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about, of course I'm going to keep this on my shelf, but why this copy? You may be surprised to hear that Suspiria is not a film that I believe I ever owned on DVD. And there's a lot of reasons for that. When I became a fan of movies and I needed to collect as many as I could, something like Suspiria almost seemed too obvious. Now, it wasn't available in like the best edition ever. I believe that there were some Anchor Bay VHSs at the time. There was the 2-disc Anchor Bay DVD that was maybe floating around but was kind of out of print. But eventually, once the Argento Blu-ray boom started and they all started kind of tumbling out on disc, it felt like they were almost everywhere. And I wasn't even that tempted that much to get it when it was announced. Mostly because, for a while, it felt like there was a new remaster of Suspiria coming out every 2 years. And it also kind of hits this nerve for me that kind of bugs me in a little way, which is the same movie being released over and over and over again. Now, as I say that, I know that it took a while for Suspiria to get a remastered edition, and that what they did to get it at the point that they did took a lot of work. That, unless I'm mistaken, maybe I'm thinking of another Argento film, like the negative was damaged and they had to go back to it and reconstruct it from multiple different sources and just do a whole lot of digital post-production. If you're unfamiliar with Synapse, they actually don't release that many Blu-rays, but they are the most consistent when it comes to quality, and they will spend years getting something perfect. So when you get something like Suspiria from them, you know that it's going to be a quality product. But at the same time, even this Blu-ray, I remember it came out in that tin that cost like $90. And I went, you know what? I'll be honest, I don't even know if I need it that badly. For me, this is not a movie that I watch that often. And the reason is, if I'm going to see it, I'm going to see it theatrically, because it plays all the time. And I had seen it theatrically before it came to Blu-ray, and I had also seen it when I was a movie fan coming up, probably in multiple versions. I watch it with friends. It's one of those movies that's kind of like baked in, that I almost know every shot, that it's not something that I always pull to watch when I have friends over, or even when I want to just watch a movie that I know will be quality. And this is just for me speaking. I know that this movie is like very important to a lot of people, that it's a comfort film, that it's something that like they go to because they just love the textures and the perfect world, the colors, the goblin score. It just works all in a perfect symphony. But at some point, it feels almost like hermetically sealed to me. Now, this would be different if I had just discovered it for the first time, had never felt all of the things that it contains. But that's not who I am right now. This is a film, again, that I feel is almost in my DNA. So I did pick this up when it came out on Blu-ray, when Synapse put it out in this, like, you can't really read it, but oh boy, there are so many special features written in this box at the back. And it's really interesting stuff as well, like a 30-minute visual essay, which I really love. The picture of this looks gorgeous. Now, I'm sure there's probably issues with this. If you look at the Blu-ray forums, people always find issues when they're pixel peaking, or maybe there's some shots that are uncolored incorrectly. But to me, this is a great version to have this movie. And I don't have the 4K because, I'll say it now, and I will probably say it many times throughout this video series, is that I don't really need 4K. I understand 4K. I understand its strengths. Like, if I bring it into a program on my computer and I zoom in, you will not get that kind of destruction of the information. That you will see, like, it crystal clear as if you were using, like, a magnifying glass on a 35mm print. That's not how I watch movies. Even on my 4K TV, my 1080p Blu-rays versus my 4K Blu-rays, I don't see that big a difference. Now, is it because my eyes don't work that well? Perhaps you can say that. But like, a movie is just kind of a visceral experience that, as long as I feel I'm getting it in a quality that is encompassing everything that the filmmaker was trying to do, it doesn't really bother me whether it be 1080p and 4K. And I also find that, like, it works for distributors, the fact that there's titles like Suspiria that if you release it in a 4K new remaster, that you will get people that will buy it because they want the best version of this thing. But the reality is, you know, the jump from DVD to Blu-ray was pretty huge. And like the Blu-ray version of most of the films that I have, I'm good with them. Now people will argue, oh, but it's a new scan of a 4K, or perhaps the grain is finer than it would be. And I go, yeah, you know what? Those are perfect arguments. But for me, it doesn't really matter. Again, if I feel like I'm getting the full picture, then that's good enough for me. And the fact is that like TVs are so complicated now, and that there's so many options, that nothing is really locked in as one. So we may all be getting completely different visual experiences, all based on the 4K Blu-ray, just because of the nature of the way that HDR works, and making sure that your TV is able to set it up as perfectly as it should be. And the thing is, it always kind of makes me a little bit sad when I see people buy 4Ks of these releases that get remastered and re-put out again and again and again, just because like I wish they would try something else. And like, oh, you know, I'm sure you want this movie perfect, looking pristine, because you love it, but you could also try this one as well, and you can get to that movie later. Maybe you could sell your old copy and pick it up, but you know, there's so much stuff being put out there that I like it when people take chances. Then again, I understand as a Blu-ray distributor that you can also do the 4K releases to kind of hold up the ones that don't sell that much. That makes complete sense to me as well, but you know, it always just bums me out a little bit when I hear that like a really interesting little known film doesn't sell that well, when the distributor put like everything that they could into it to make it the most contextual and inviting experience, but then like the third 4K release of something, this time in a steelbook, is being put out. It's weird to say that I don't really consider myself a collector when you see everything behind me like this, but the reality of it is that like something being rare doesn't really have that much value to me. It's mostly the content that it has. You know, I say this and then I'll be picking something off my shelf. You'd be like, wait, but you have that, so there are exceptions, right? And it's like, okay, I agree. But when it comes to Blu-ray stuff, it's like, if I don't like it, I will sell it. That's when I sell my stuff, but otherwise, give me a 1080p version of it with tons of great special features and it looks fantastic. This is the version of Suspiria I have, and it's a version of Suspiria that I'll be happy with. I should note as well that something about 4K releases, when it comes to new scans, is oftentimes you'll hear, oh, wow, it's amazing that, you know, they recolor corrected it. And then it looks not good. Because at the end of the day, you know, when you go to the negative, they're not color corrected and you have to do work on them to get them how they look. And sometimes they look completely different than the way that we associate with them. Now, is that wrong? The people color correcting would say, no, that I'm trying to reflect the director's vision that was not available on the DVD version. Sometimes it is completely off the mark. And you can find a bunch of articles on that. I'll actually link some below that like new scans does not necessarily mean a truer to the filmmaker's vision. It just means like whoever is doing it may make some changes that reflect things, you know, awkwardly. And this happens sometimes when it comes to the cinematographers as well. I don't remember exactly what disc it was. Maybe it was Phenomena, but they went through the cinematographer and there were like these dream sequences and they took like a tint off of it. And that's what the cinematographer wanted. And the people doing the Blu-ray were like, okay, we'll do what you ask, but that's not the version that everybody knows. And they were able to kind of, you know, do it to their liking by having the theatrical version. I think they went back to the original tinting. So, you know, it's kind of like redoing your homework and it gets very complicated, but I should just let people know that if you see like 4K remastered, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. It just means that, you know, it's new and you're rolling the dice on that. So it's not something that I always jump right into. So in summary, of course, I'm going to keep Suspiria on the shelf, but I don't think I'll be buying another version of it anytime soon as well, because this'll do me.